We bonded over being boring, I remember. We both think of ourselves as very sort of boring straightforward people.
I just wanted to play a little fun game. It's called Cinema Confession. So, who was your first film crush?
Natalie Portman in the Star Wars prequels.
Colin Firth in everything. I mean, she saw Colin. I don't remember where I first saw Colin Firth and was like, he's the one for me.
What's a movie that you've never seen, but you kind of know that you should have by now?
I'm not sure that I've seen The Sound of Music all the way through.
I hadn't, but I hadn't seen Jurassic Park until very, very recently, until about a month ago.
Still a thrill, right?
Yeah, really. The first one is incredible.
And what's the film that made you cry the most?
Okay, not the most start to finish, but the most reliably every time I watched it, Bolt, which is the animated film about the dog who thinks that he's a real action hero and he's a movie star. And I hadn't thought about that, but he's very crypto-like. He's a white dog who, is this action hero and thinks he has superpowers, and then realizes that he doesn't. I remember the second time watching it, crying at the same moment, being like, this seems weird.
Now we're on dog movies, but I was completely traumatized by Old Yeller. I mean, I watched Old Yeller as a kid with my family in the basement and was crying for days.
The other ones, especially since we're in London, Dunkirk. Every time the boats, the civilian boats arrive, I cry at that.
How did you build the chemistry between Lois and Superman so beautifully?
A few times between when we were cast and when we started sort of pre-production.
Yeah.
We just had lots of large breakfasts together.
David was bulking.
Yeah.
I was shocked by the volume of eggs that this man could eat.
I certainly was feeling some nerves, at that stage leading up to it before we had really started talking to James about what he was imagining. So I took a lot of comfort in Rachel and her perspective on the script and the story and the scope of the whole thing, the fact that it was going to be very public and have a lot of eyes on it. So
I think we just realized really early on that we're so different in so many ways, but we're also quite similar in the way that we work. And I think
we bonded over being boring, I remember. We both think of ourselves as very sort of boring straightforward people.
Yeah, really straightforward. And we were kind of like, I think this is going to work.
Yeah.
Do you remember your first movie experience and who you went with?
I mean, I have such a vague memory of it because I was so small, but I remember seeing, I think, Beauty and the Beast in a movie theater. I would have been so little, but I have this memory of this massive screen and the cups dancing around, and it just felt like magic. It was nothing I'd ever experienced before.
I don't know if I remember my first theatrical experience, although it might have been seeing Shrek at the Narberth movie theater, which had like a beautiful old theater with a chandelier, like the old seats and everything.
Your Superman, I think, shows a bit more of the masculine vulnerability. Yeah. What were your thoughts behind that, and how did you manage to kind of get that human element to shine through?
I didn't think so much about, I want Superman to be vulnerable. I thought, what if Superman was a real person? What would he be like? And can we get a glimpse of that? Because you know what? Every person has some vulnerabilities to them. And I thought, if Superman was real, what would his flaws be? What would his strengths be? What would he actually be like? And then kind of delving into the psychology of that a little bit more than most Superman movies.
And how does this kind of form the future of the DC universe as seen from the eyes of James Gunn?
Well, I think it's just, we obviously are entering a different universe when we come into Superman. It's not just a world of Superman coming from another planet and, his parents and then a bunch of human beings. This is a world of, superhumans that are flying around and doing activities and magic and sorcery and, monsters and robots and flying dogs.
And yet it still captures that kind of nostalgic energy of the 70s. So was that a really important element when you were kind of creating this film?
I'm always influenced by the films of the 70s because there was a high point of cinema for me in the 70s that was the time when movies were grounded and real and then started to intersect with the spectacle film. Movies like Jaws, but then moving into Jaws, Close Encounters is around that time, but so is The Godfather and, Thomas Crown Affair and all these other movies that were so, huge movies that were also grounded and gritty. And so to have a spectacle film with all this crazy stuff happening, but to also keep it grounded and gritty was really, something that was always it's just what I like.
Is there a movie that you've never seen that you kind of should have by now?
I've never sat all the way through, and I'm embarrassed to say this, I've never sat all the way through Gone with the Wind. I can't, I've watched parts of it, but it's just not my bag. So I haven't, no offense to the filmmakers in the sky, in heaven. But yeah, I've never watched it.
And what was the film that made you cry the most?
I will say the ending of Enora made me break down weeping.
Who was your first date to the cinema? Who did you take, and what was the movie that you saw?
My date would have been my mother, and the movie was The Aristocats. I think it was The Aristocats.